marked what ended up being the greatest thrill, the worst luck, and the most memorable experience of my entire childhood. Bob was my next-door neighbor, and Bob was, well, how do I put this lightly? A bit of an OCD freak. Bob was the kind of guy who liked his lawn perfectly mowed, every blade of grass precisely cut, every bush geometrically sculpted, his windows polished, and not a footprint showing on his entire driveway. Even the simple act of looking at Bob and his house in the wrong manner would send the man into a rage. Now meet James. I often called upon a lifelong friend, and in this case partner in crime, James Bronco, to see just how far we could twist Bob's arm. Now up until this point, all of our attempted plots had amounted to nothing spectacular, but that all changed one Friday after school when we set our sights to accomplish what no other kid had accomplished before. This would be the big caboodle, the war to end all wars, the final countdown, the shot heard around the world. This would be Das Ende, El Fin. We were going to do the impossible. The plot was simple but effective. Bob was always working in his office, which was next to a heavily secured front door armed with night vision cameras. First, we distracted the target by having our expert pilots fly a remote control airplane into the northwest window of Bob's residence. The airplane struck the projected collision point perfectly. Upon hearing the airplane, the target leaves his seat and goes into the west wing of the residence, giving us optimal time for porch infiltration. This was the moment of truth. Right on cue, James moved his way rapidly through the front yard on his way to the door. His face concealed with a ski mask, of course. He reaches the entryway and proceeded to press the doorbell. Then, he's off to the races, a classic ding-dong ditch. In a matter of seconds, he hopped the front gate in a single leap and made his way back to where I was waiting. But the mission was not over yet. Upon hearing the doorbell, Bob went to answer the front door. Seeing as how I was the star pitcher on our school's baseball team, it was only natural that this be the grand finale. Right on cue, Bob opened the door, Nate gave the signal, and... Success! The target stood drenched on his own property. At this point, I thought everything was cherry. We had pulled off a hilarious prank, Bob was soaking, and the best part, he was hopeless for a counter. However, this newfound glory was short-lived. There was one small error in my calculations. I forgot Bob was a freaking lunatic. I was also not aware that Bob ran relay for the USA in the 1956 Stockholm Summer Olympics. Little to say, Bob on the scene of the crime immediately broke out of his regular attire into a full-blown tracksuit and gave chase. And so it happened. Down the street he chased us at surprisingly efficient speeds until he cornered us and captured us in a bush. Unfortunately, repercussions were greater than expected. Never again can we set foot on Bob's property where he threatens to call the sheriff's department, and since then he has enforced his security. As I told my mom during our discussion regarding the incident, I learned to respect a person's property, to think rationally, to properly and politely converse with someone higher than myself. Oh, and most importantly, that sometimes the punishment is totally worth it. In fact, before the old grunt handed me off, I looked that man in the eye and said, "I'm your worst nightmare's worst nightmare. Bob, you haven't seen the end of me."